Welcome to the Devy debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Gotta get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
It is first and goal. Ball spotted just inside the 10. Algier in. Wilson faked it to him and keeps it. Zach Wilson to speed, and he dives for the end zone. Touchdown.
That's Austin Nace.
Gibbs, who is probably going to be the best pass catcher out of the three.
Now. First down, he's going to get after it again. And look at the speed and the spark and the score from Gibbs. Just what Georgia Tech needed.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields up the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Austin, you tweeted something, bro. You tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Ohio State fan talking there.
Oh, shit.
That is why you come to the Devy debate. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern, the only time zone to be invited to the Senior Bowl. That means it's time for the Devy debate. That's Matt Bruning. That's Austin Nace. And I'm Felix Sharp on a draft-eligible version of today's show. An initial round of collegiate players who could break out in 2021. We revisit who should be the second quarterback taken in the upcoming NFL draft and movement amongst the 2023 wide receiver class. But we start with G. Scott not getting a single offensive snap with Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba unavailable to play in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. This is something we raised last week. We asked what players could be considered for the transfer portal in the future, and I raised G. Scott. 74 offensive snaps in that Big Ten championship game. G. Scott gets none. Garrett Wilson, 73. Julian Fleming, 52. Jamison Williams, 41. And Cameron Babb, 20. That 2020 class included the three highly touted prospects. Fleming was the number one overall prospect, a five-star prospect, the number one receiver, JSN, the number 5 overall receiver, again, a 5-star, and G. Scott, the number 10 overall prospect and a 4-star. 2021 is coming, and Emeka Ibuka is coming. He's the number 1 receiver in the next class. Ohio State is a team that runs 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. And so if we have to look forward, if we have to look to 2021, you have to assume that Fleming and JSN and Wilson are going to be the projected starters with Chris Olave leaving. But then you got to throw Jamison Williams in there also. He's only a sophomore. So we project Fleming and JSN as the starters not only through 2021, but through 2023 because they're the freshmen that are actually playing. That leaves G. Scott and Ibuka, and then there's not just Ibuka, but the rest of that Ohio State wide receiver core next year that's coming in is also highly touted. You've got Marvin Harrison's son coming in next year. So that leaves Ibuka and Scott to compete for a number 3 position, some sort of contributor role for a team that's going to have a first-time a newly starting quarterback that is not as highly touted as Fields, and either Jack Miller or C.J. Stroud. Matt, there's not enough space. There's not enough space. This isn't Alabama or Clemson where you would expect 1,000-yard seasons from multiple receivers. And we knew what the topic would be today. I don't know what your response is going to be, but I will bet you this. By the conclusion of next year's bowl season, one of these guys will have entered the transfer portal, and I'm betting it has to be Scott because he's the one that's not getting playing time now. And we're talking about I'm a Michigan fan, but I love me some G. Scott, a 6'3", 200-pound route runner. That's the type of player that I like. I don't like the fact that he's not getting on the field. And what a timely tweet by G. Scott Sr. I tweeted earlier today, maybe about 2 hours ago, about fans hating people who enter the transfer portal, players that enter the transfer portal. Maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing. Maybe he's just alluding to Mookie Cooper entering the transfer portal. But Mr. Bruning, I'm telling you, by this time next year, one of those three, one of the 2020 wide receivers will have entered the transfer portal, and I think it's going to be G. Scott.
So, quick question for you: do you have French at all in your background? Because you're throwing a lot of wees around there, and I did not say that I thought that JSN, Garrett Wilson, and Julian Fleming were going to be the for sure starters for Ohio State. Garrett Wilson for sure will be the starter. Julian Fleming will be. He will go in and replace Chris Olave. They recruited JSN to be the slot receiver for them once Garrett Wilson leaves. Will JSN get on the field? Absolutely, he will. My God, I was about to call him Chris Olave. My bad. G. Scott is the X receiver in that offense, and I do believe will be the starter next year. Do I think he's going to transfer? No, absolutely not. You're going to I won't be mean. You're going to say that he's not doing well this season, not getting on the field, not getting any snaps, as we saw, right? We have not seen him. He's been on the field for 31 snaps so far this season. You know that he's only played in 2 games outside of the Northwestern game this past weekend. He was out due to COVID, missed 2 games. The Buckeyes have played a whopping 6 games this season. On top of the 6 games, they've played once this year back-to-back. Earlier in the season, they played 2 games back-to-back, then had a game off, game off, game off, game due to COVID and other teams canceling on them. On top of that, earlier in spring, they did not get to go through their full practices and everything because they got shut down due to COVID. And multiple times this year in weeks where they were preparing for games, they had to go to virtual or only due to people testing positive in their building. So now you're going to, man, I keep wanting to make this all hot takey. You want to say that G. Scott's going to enter the transfer portal because he hasn't done anything on the field when he hasn't been able to practice due to Big Ten COVID rules of you being out for 21 days. So he was not able to do anything on the field. On top of that, he's not the guy who's going to replace Chris Olave when Olave's out. That's Julian Fleming. Another reason why we saw Julian Fleming on the field a lot more in that Northwestern game because Olave was out and they still couldn't get Julian Fleming going. Yeah, he made a couple good catches, but nothing. His routes were not crisp. You could see Justin Fields kind of getting a little bit frustrated with them. I understand that this has been a disappointing year. I cannot say anything bad about any freshman receiver in this 2020 season, especially in the Big Ten and Pac-12, where their seasons have just been completely upheavaled with everything going on. Starting late, 5 games here, 3 games here, 2 games for some teams. The SEC and the ACC and Big 12 got it right, in my opinion, starting when they did, moving games around, figuring it out. I just want to ask you really quick. And I went through the past 3 draft. Man, I'm so focused on NFL draft stuff. I keep talking NFL stuff. I went through the past 3 recruiting classes. So top 10 wide receivers in each one, right? Obviously, G. Scott was in there. You want to take a guess at who had the best year out of all of these freshman wide receivers in the past 3 draft classes? There was only one player in the 3 freshman years that went over 1,000 yards in receiving. And I would bet, I'll give you both 2 guesses, and I bet neither one of you can come up with who it is.
I'm lost in what the question is. The question is what player who just entered the draft had 1,000 yards?
It came out in the freshman recruiting class that was in the top 10. Actually, I don't even know if he was in the top 10. I'm sorry. Was in the top 10 of their recruiting class since 2018, 2019, 2020. So these past 3 years. So you're obviously pretty much eliminating the 2020 guys. So 2018 and 2019, one player out of all those top recruiting classes, that's 30 players right there, has gone over 1,000 yards in their freshman season.
Give it to us.
It's David Bell. He's the only one. Nobody else even came close. The next closest was 520 yards from Garrett Wilson last year on 30 catches for 432 yards on 520 snaps. I'm sorry, 400 yards, 520 snaps. Going over this, nobody has done much. You're talking about JSN and how he's having a great year. We think he's having a great year because he had that great phenomenal catch in the end zone. I'm not saying you're saying that, but people are saying JSN, he's out playing. He's caught 6 passes for a whopping 17 yards on 139 snaps. Julian Fleming, who got Most of his snaps last week, 123 snaps, 7 catches for 74 yards. So I got most of his catches and yards in that last game. The only 2 guys, and I think this is going to be very obvious with what conferences they play for, Jordan Addison is the only freshman outside of Keyshawn Boutte, or Boutte, however you say it, that are having good years as freshmen this year. Why? Because they've actually got to play a full season. I did not. Well, Mims wasn't in the top 10, so I didn't add him, but Mims is having a phenomenal. Jordan Addison wasn't either, but he popped up in my head. I just kind of want to look at him. I really only put him on here because he has a very interesting stat line, 60 catches for 666 yards, which I thought was just kind of, I'm not really a hugely religious person, but I feel like I want to either get a negative or a positive yard somewhere just to kind of get that off my stat sheet. But anyways, it's him and Keyshawn are the only 2 that have done anything in this freshman class. And I think a lot of that goes to neither one of those schools have really been hit. Pittsburgh specifically, Austin, you can speak, that has not been hit anything COVID-wise, really. They've gotten to play pretty much their entire season. Same thing with LSU. They're out there practicing every single day, every single week. I'm not going to put anything on G. Scott or any of those other freshman wide receivers about transferring until I see what happens next year. Next year will be key. Now, if we come out and G. Scott is 4th on the depth chart, then maybe, yes, I'll agree with you. At the end of the next year, he may transfer, but I don't think he's transferring. I think he is their X next year because I think he's a better wide receiver than Jameson Williams.
All right. I appreciate the numbers, my brother. A lot of numbers there, but I think there's one number that matters, and that's 3. There's going to be generally three starting positions in that Ohio State wide receiver core. You have 4 highly touted wide receivers. So which one of them is going to be content playing a reserve role until 2023 when that 2020 class is draft eligible? I don't. Go ahead.
They're not going to be the back guy, though. That's my whole point. You look at what's going on with Ohio State this year, and it's due to the weirdness of this year, the 6 games. They are clearly – if you guys watched the Northwestern game, you saw it, right? They were wanting Fields to continue throwing the ball, even when Trey Sermon, of all people, was ripping off 10-yard runs every time he got the ball, and Ryan Day still wanted to throw it. He was trying to get Justin Fields that Heisman. He wants to get that passing game going. That's who Ryan Day is. If you go back to previous years, Ryan Day has always instituted that, like I've mentioned before on this podcast multiple times, hockey line changes at wide receiver. They switch wide receivers more than any other team. So nobody's going to be a quote-unquote backup. There might be G. Scott and JSN maybe on the second line, and I do think JSN will be on the second line. He is their slot receiver. They've come out and said that he is their slot behind Wilson. So your starters are likely going to be Julian Fleming in for Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson at the slot, and then it's either going to be G. Scott or Jameson Williams at the X. So if it's Jameson Williams, that means G. Scott and Jameson will be second string.
You're saying that there's not going to be backups, but there's nobody that's going to be getting essentially starter reps at the position. That's what it sounds like you're saying. And my point is that I don't think that those 4 guys, or throw in 5, the rest of that 2021 class, that they're going to be okay with that. So listen, I'm applying common sense here. We just saw an Ohio State wide receiver enter the transfer portal.
It's because he had no playing, though. Well, then let me ask you this.
We'll see.
Terry McLaurin, he was a starter for the Ohio State Buckeyes, right?
Yep.
For how long?
I don't know. How long was Terry McLaurin?
When did he get drafted?
What kind of prospect was Terry McLaurin, and when was he drafted?
Nobody thought he was any kind of prospect. That's my point. These guys aren't coming here to put up stats. Who thought Terry McLaurin was going to be a great prospect? Until he showed up at the Senior Bowl and everybody's like, holy crap, this kid's actually good. They're not going there to put up stats. G. Scott's not going there to win a Heisman. He's going there to be coached by Brian Hartline, become a better wide receiver, and get drafted into the NFL.
You cannot compare Terry McLaurin to 3 wide receivers who are ranked the top 10 in their class. I'm sorry. Can we let Austin get in here? Austin, do you have any? Are you going to be a referee here?
I think you guys got it covered. I don't have a strong feeling about it one way or the other. I'm not going to lie.
Bruning, do you want to have the last word before we move on?
G. Scott Jr. is the truth. That's it. Go ahead. Move on.
All right. We saw some out-of-nowhere breakouts in the 2020 college football season, from Zach Wilson to Carson Strong to Javonte Williams. And so we wanted to take some time to consider who are some 2021 potential breakouts. And the guy that I want to highlight is Jashaun Corbin, the running back out of Florida State. 2018 3-star prospect according to 24/7, 4-star prospect according to the composite rankings. I love his size, 6 foot 220 pounds. He has that prototypical NFL size. Committed to Texas A&M, played just 14 games for them, 1,000 all-purpose yards. He was used as a kick returner there. Severe hamstring injury in 2019, ended his season after 2 games. Then we saw Isaiah Spiller emerge, and Corbin transfers to Florida State. At Florida State this past season, he led the running backs in rushing with 401 yards, added 19 catches, which is, again, impressive for a 220-pound back. This last season, though, it was a 3-way committee between Corbin, LaDamian Webb, and freshman Lawrence Toafili, who I know a lot of people like out there in the Devy community. But moving forward, LaDamian Webb opted out. He's at the beginning of December, he opted out and he transferred to Troy. So we got a peek of what that backfield could look like in FSU's last game against Duke, where Corbin had 16 carries for 72 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, important information, 2017 national champion Mackenzie Milton is transferring from USC to Florida State. Didn't play in the 2019 or 2020 seasons after that horrific knee injury in 2018. Assuming he is healthy, that FSU offense could be trending up, and a 220-pound back with pass-catching ability could be the beneficiary of it. The other thing I like about Corbin is that two coaching staffs now have shown that they're very interested in getting him the ball whatever way they could. You had Texas A&M use him as a kick returner, and Florida State uses him as the Wildcat quarterback. We saw Laviska Shenault take that position last year with Colorado. Corbin is used in that role, in that capacity here at Florida State. Very interesting. Next year, he'll be a redshirt junior. Hopefully, they'll have that quarterback position worked out with Mackenzie Milton, who will be, the oldest quarterback starting at FSU since Chris Winkie. And so Corbin is my potential 2021 breakout. Austin, let me toss it to you. Who do you got as a potential 2021 breakout?
Man, we're 17 minutes in here, and I get my first segment. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, guys. So my big breakout guy is Josh Downs, and I don't think that's a bold call, or I'm not bringing up someone that a lot of people probably haven't heard of, but he was a big favorite of mine coming into this year, and I knew that he probably wouldn't really play barring injury. He was a 4-star receiver last year, 5'10", 175. He went to UNC. And they already had De'Ami Brown. They have Daz Newsome there, and he's probably going to fill Newsome's role next year. Like he's that profile of a player. So unless Newsome went down before the start of the year, it was pretty obvious that maybe he would, do some kick or punt returning, maybe fill in a little bit in some garbage time. But he was not really going to get any serious looks. He had a touchdown this year, though. I mean, he had 3 catches, 28 yards, a touchdown. He's going to be there next year. I'm hoping that Newsome leaves. I mean, nothing against Newsome. I just want to see Downs on the field. He'll be tied to Sam Howell for at least 1 year. I kind of have some suspicions that De'Ami Brown might come back next year. I don't have anything to base that on, but it just seems like one of those situations where he can go back in a less loaded wide receiver class and kind of get the gang back together for one more big run. So he could potentially have Brown there to take some heat off of him while he develops a little bit. And so it wouldn't shock me at all if he's like their number 2 guy next year. And I think he can do some serious damage in a weaker defensive ACC.
Friend of the show, James Chaney, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but former writer for the Breakout Finder, earlier in the offseason coming into the season, he pointed out Downs to me. And so I've kind of noted him since then because I respect James's opinion. So, all right, Bruning, who you got? Who you got as a potential 2021 breakout?
I was going to go with G. Scott Jr., but I do feel like I should start getting paid for as much as I talk about him. So I'll pivot to talk about someone else. Actually, I wrote an article about him earlier this year. Me and Austin did a lot of Devy stuff and profiles, freshman profile stuff for the Dynasty Nerds website, and I wrote up a guy, Quentin Johnston, went to TCU out of Temple, wide receiver. I thought he was a really overlooked wide receiver in this class. He was just the 14th ranked 70th rated prospect overall. Played basketball in high school, was a very good basketball player. I like his top end speed, contested catch and high pointing the ball. I think were two of his best traits coming out of high school. Good friend of the show, Alfred Fernandez. It was a tie, by the way, Alfred. If you're watching, you did not win that game. And anyways, he posted from his show, Why Wait Till Sunday? Check it out. It's a great show about Devy, DFS, and everything. That Quentin Johnson just broke the 20% market share as a true freshman on a TCU team that is not good. I think the future is bright for this kid. He's a really good prospect. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like Fusuvu, but I don't necessarily disagree with the comment that he made a comment about Quentin Johnson a couple weeks ago. Actually, it may have been just a week ago, that he believes he's a discount Julian Fleming, and I don't disagree with that. I think Johnston is going to be a guy that people will be talking about in the coming years. So he's a guy I think will break out in that offense next year.
All right, listeners, your homework. Tweet at the show and let us know what collegiate players you believe will break out in 2021, and we could analyze your suggestion on next week's show because we're going to do this into the offseason. I think that this segment could include additional TCU players, and I'm not talking about Zach Evans. So there was a player that I considered that was not Zach Evans. All right, boys. Are we ready for the Devy debates?
Let's do it.
All right. Outstanding game in the Boca Raton Bowl for Zach Wilson against UCF, 26 for 34, 425 yards, 3 touchdowns, adding 2 TDs on the ground. We're revisiting this question, Mr. Bruning. Should Zach Wilson be considered as an option for the number 2 overall pick in this upcoming draft and be the second quarterback drafted after Trevor Lawrence?
So I am not going to answer that right now. I'm going to let you guys answer it for me. We're going to play a little game. So some of these stats, I'm hoping, I know both of you pay very close attention to a lot of these players, and then you know your shit. So this might be a little bit harder than I think it's going to be, but I put together a bunch of stats on 3 quarterbacks in this draft, and I'm going to show them to you. I just want you to pick. So if you're listening on the podcast, obviously this is not going to be fun. I will read over the stats, but I'm going to share my screen with you guys now. And I want you guys to just pick the quarterback that you would take over on these stats. I'll put it up full page here. So QB1, right there, you got the stats. 6,000 yards, 58 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 57% completion percentage, 987 rushing yards, 6 total touchdowns, 34 explosive plays. QB2, 5,000, 641 passing yards, 40-12 touchdown interception ratio, 66.8% completion percentage, 635 rushing yards with 11 touchdowns, 26 explosive plays. QB3, 4,792 passing yards, 56 for 8, 68.5 completion percentage with 1,082 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, and 34 explosive plays. So, Austin, if you had to pick a quarterback out of those 3, who would you take?
I think QB2 is probably the guy that I'm looking at the most. I mean, he has the fewest rush touchdowns, fewest rush yards, but, you know, that nice completion percentage there. I think I'd go with QB2.
Okay. Felix?
I think I potentially would. I mean, first of all, QB1 is out of the. I think QB1 is Zach. I mean, you've thrown his completion percentage up there from his 3 years. But anyway,
no. So this is actually only 2 years. Only 2 years worth of stats. Last year and this year.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. But I like the completion percentage for QB2, and I like his yardage and his touchdown. I mean, it's between QB2 and QB3. The one thing that I would want to see is the yards per attempt, because I do like to know whether or not that player is.
QB1's Lawrence, though, I'm pretty sure.
I can't pull that up quickly. So okay, well,
I want to know these players to the extent they're getting the ball downfield, and so
I have that for you, buddy. We're going to get to that in just a minute. We're getting to it. I promise. That's the last slide. So which would you take, 2 or 3?
I would take 3. I would take 3.
Okay. So the next slide here, this is going to the defenses and that they've played. So Quarterback 1, average defensive rank of 65.3. The highest rated defense they've played in the past 2 years was the number 1 defense, number 9, and number 23. The second quarterback, an average defensive rank of 64.6. The best defenses they played were 4, 10, and 13. And then quarterback 3, 48.6 average defense rank. 3, 6, and 8 were the highest defenses that they played over the past 2 years. So knowing that, putting up those stats, which quarterback would you take?
I'm going to stick with quarterback 3.
Is this like what is that, goat riddle or whatever, where like they're behind the door and you pick the first one, and then when they take away a door, like you're supposed to pick the other one?
So
Isn't that like how the logic works?
Here's the interesting thing. When I say QB1, that's not the same QB1 earlier. I'm just going, I mixed up every single one. I just want you to pick what you feel is the best category each time. I know which based on the color-coded sheet I have right here. So, and I'm marking down who you guys are picking.
Gotcha. I mean, I think I'm going to pick the third one.
Okay.
Well, we both picked the third one. Yeah.
Okay. So next sheet. This is them under pressure and when blitz. So QB1, 45% completion percentage, 1149, 15-3, 64 passing grade. When blitzed, all three of these quarterbacks are amazing when blitzed. And I think that's just due to how good they are at reading defenses when they come at them. But QB1, 63.2, 2,189 yards, 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 83.35 grade. QB2, 42.6 percentage, 757 yards, 6-4, 65.35 pass grade. When blitz, 67% completion percentage, 1,689 yards, 18-3 for the touchdown interception ratio, 75.25. And then QB3, 49.10 completion percentage, 832 yards, 10-4 with a 58.3 pass grade. When blitz, 65.7% completion percentage, 17-26, 25-5, 76.5 passing grade.
QB3 for me. That I like the touchdown to interception ratio and the completion percentage when blitzed.
Okay.
Yeah, give me QB1 actually. Slightly lower completion percentage, but when they're finding the right guy, like they've got the over 2,000 yards there, so I'm getting a sense that they know the blitz is coming better and they can find the open guy better than just kind of dumping it off.
You would be 100% right on that scenario there, Austin. That quarterback does that very well. Probably one of the better things they do in this class. All right, so now into deep, mid-range, and intermediate passing. Not quite what you were asking for, Felix, but I went ahead and dug into it. So QB1, 41% deep ball passing with a 1,762 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Mid-range, 57.3%, 1,867 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And then intermediate, obviously all three of these guys are phenomenal. 77%. 1,500 yards, 10 for 2. I'm just going to go quicker because I feel like this is taking too long. So QB2, going deep, 48%, 1,788, 14-5. Mid-range, 61%, 1,749, 8-4. And then the intermediate, 82%, 1,564, 11-3. And then I'll scoot the sheet over so you guys can see QB3 really quick. 49% completion percentage on deep passing, 15, 19, 26-3. Mid-range, 71%, 1371, 18-4. And then intermediate, 80%, 1599, 10-1.
Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, man, this is actually a really hard one because I care the most about intermediate, and they're actually all pretty darn close.
Yes,
I don't think that 5% is particularly, conclusive to pick between the two or between the three. I would probably pick QB3 just because of only one interception there, and the touchdowns are all pretty comparable.
Okay.
Same. I'll go with QB3 also.
I love you guys so much.
We just picked Justin Fields through all of this, didn't we?
So, Felix, you went 4 for 4 on Justin Fields. Austin, you went 2 for Fields, 1 for Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. I'm done. I'll see you guys later. Have a great night. Everybody's trashing Justin Fields because he's had 2 effing bad games this year against 2, at time, Northwestern, top 5 secondary right now rated in the NCAA. Indiana, top 12. And you're going to tell me that he's bad. Yes, he's had 2 bad games. I'll give you that. Has he looked great at times? No, he has not. Does he hold on to the ball too long? Yes, he absolutely does. However, I will go to the Michigan State game. He did not hold on to the ball too long in those games. Why? Because when he realized that he couldn't make a play, he ran with it. What's the difference? Ryan Day wasn't there. Ryan Day came out earlier this year and said they didn't want to see Justin Fields running from the pocket anymore. They wanted to show that he was a pure passer and that he could do it in the passing game. I think when Ryan Day is there, he doesn't run as much, which also hurts his game. If defenses know that he's not going to take out of the pocket as much, which you'll see if you dig into the stats last year, rushing yards a ridiculous number compared to this year and last year. That is what's hurting his game some. Justin Fields is still in the conversation with Trevor Lawrence. I understand he's had 2 bad games. Again, I'll go back to what I mentioned with G. Scott earlier. They played 2 games, was off a game. Played a game, off a game, played a game, off a game. Played better opponents this year outside of Notre Dame's 1 game. Or I'm sorry, Lawrence's 1 game against Notre Dame this past weekend. Zach Wilson's best game came against UCF's 67th ranked, or I'm sorry, Coastal Carolina's 28th ranked defense. Bravo, Coastal Carolina, who also made Zach Wilson look mortal. Zach Wilson, I'm not trying to bash here at all. He's a phenomenal quarterback prospect. I still think he's one of the best in this class. It's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, tier break, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. So, no, I do not think Zach Wilson.
Can I clarify something about the statistics? The statistics were from the last year and this year combined, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I mean, Mark Twain once said that there are lies, damn lies, in statistics. And I think that if we took a look at Joe Burrow's second to last year or Kyler Murray's second to last year, you wouldn't have wanted them as your quarterback. I don't know if we got an answer to I think we did get an answer to the question. You're saying that Zach Wilson should not be considered.
Correct. So let me use.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
You listen to these draft shows. You listen to people with blue check marks. They're saying that it's all over the board as to who is the potential number 2 quarterback. And I just don't think that you can definitively say that it's Justin Fields because he had a better sophomore season. Or was that his sophomore season?
Yep. Sophomore.
You scarlet and gray homers act like anyone who says that Zach Wilson should be considered for the number 2 pick, that they're glue sniffers. And I'm sorry, I just don't subscribe to that notion. So go ahead.
Okay, so you want to talk about so you can't use 2 years of statistics because Justin Fields had a great year last year. Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow had bad years last year. Guess what? Zach Wilson had a bad year last year and is having a phenomenal year this year. Guess what? Justin Fields had a phenomenal year last year and is having a not so good year this year. Trevor Lawrence was not that great at times last year. You can't just take 1 year sample sizes. That's not how life works. You have to take everything into consideration.
Wasn't Kyler Murray a 1 year sample size? Wasn't Joe Burrow a 1 year sample size? I mean, that's my point.
I'm not saying that they're not. But you're saying
you can't take 1 year sample sizes. I'm saying if that was the case,
no, I'm saying
Joe
I
Burrow
would
wouldn't
not
have been the number 1 overall pick.
And I never said he should have been the number 1 overall pick. I had Justin Herbert higher than him. I think Justin Herbert's a better player. Joe Burrow is a phenomenal anticipatory thrower. He's going to be great. I did have Kyler Murray 1 over Dwayne Haskins in that draft. If someone wants to take Zach Wilson over him, great. If you want to throw at me that because blue check marks are saying it, I could care less what a blue check mark says. Blue check marks were telling me Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the next best quarterback a couple years ago in that draft. That's really working out for the Chicago Bears and Mitchell Trubisky, isn't it? Not all those guys know everything. I just saw Matt Miller talking about some crazy shit on Twitter that has everybody going, just because you got a blue check mark doesn't mean you're good at your job. Just means that you've gotten to where you've gotten probably through hard work and everything else going on.
What I'm saying is that the information is coming out from NFL GMs that their draft boards that there's not a consensus on who the number 2 quarterback is. And you're saying that there has to be a consensus where there are people who
not at all.
Dollars. That's exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying.
With you guys who can't get off Zach Wilson's jock strap is that every time I say Justin Fields is better, you immediately come back, oh, you can't. Zach Wilson is a phenomenal quarterback. I'm not arguing that whatsoever. I'm saying, in my opinion, no, he does not deserve to be in the conversation with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. If you want to say that, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Zach Wilson's phenomenal. He's not as good as everybody
wants
to
make him. That's exactly what you're doing if you're saying that you're wrong. That you can't consider Zach Wilson to be the number 2 quarterback.
He's not as good just because he goes out there and beats UCF and in the Boca Raton Bowl that nobody cares about, or he goes out and beats Coastal Carolina. I would love to see Justin Fields go up against Coastal Carolina and see the stats that he puts up. I bet you it's more than 100 passing yards and 1 touchdown. I would bet you that right now. Everybody wants to give Zach Wilson all this love when he goes up against tougher defenses, he struggles. And again, Justin Fields has done that this year too. I'm not saying that he hasn't. My whole point is it's not, in my opinion, not saying that yours is wrong. It's not close for me. If you want to put Zach Wilson above Justin Fields, go for it. Everybody on Twitter is doing it right now. Everybody and their mothers are doing it on Twitter right now. Go ahead. I don't care.
All right. I'll be the glue sniffer in this conversation. Let's go to something a little less contentious. Austin, the Pac-12 championship game, USC versus Oregon. Kedon Slovis, 28 for 32, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 INTs. He's had some bad games this year. After an outstanding freshman year in 2019, is it now time to consider or rank Spencer Rattler ahead of Kedon Slovis amongst 2022 eligible quarterbacks? You're on mute, Austin.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I haven't been talking very much, so I'll forget about these things sometimes.
The rest of the show, I promise.
I'm just giving you guys a hard time. So I think everybody. I mean, I talked a little bit about Slovis last week. I think everybody kind of knows how I feel about Slovis. But just to recap, I think he's a solid fundamental passer. I think he lacks a lot of the traits that the NFL is shifting toward in terms of, creativity as a passer, mobility, those kinds of things. I think he's lacking, and I don't see it in his game where that would be possible for him to develop those things over the next couple of years. I'm kind of giving players a pass if they had a bad year this year. Not completely, but this year is just such a crapshoot. I mean, we talked a little bit about it with G. Scott and all that stuff that teams don't have consistent practices. The games are getting called off all the time. And especially those Pac-12 guys, like you were saying earlier. So I haven't really knocked Slovis's overall grade for me that much. Where I have changed a little bit is Rattler has jumped him for me. And Rattler he has a lot of the tools you want for a kid that's going to come into the NFL nowadays. He's not crazy mobile. He's not a Lamar Jackson, but he's certainly on like the Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith as prospect mobility range, which I think is more than enough for today. And the thing about Rattler that I love the most, and I think a lot of it is Lincoln Riley's doing, is that he does not make the same mistake twice. If you watch Oklahoma's games, the stuff that he was messing up the first game or 2 or 3 of the year where Oklahoma struggled, he is not doing anymore. He's reading coverages better. He's not trying to make things happen when it's not there. He's not trying to force the issue. I'm hoping, because Rattler is getting a little bit of the bump right now where you watch a guy in his first year and you're saying, okay, he does these things well. I project that he can continue to grow. And so I have him here. He is getting a little bit of that bump compared to Slovis, who has had this down year. But I would be shocked if Rattler does not continue to grow based on how he's grown the second half of this season. So give me Rattler.
I think we talked about Kedon Slovis last week, and I said I just don't like the players that don't have the traits. I want to have an elite trait with a quarterback, and Spencer Rattler has the arm talent. So I don't have any objection to ranking Rattler ahead of Kedon Slovis. I'm always going to miss out on a player like Joe Burrow, a player like Tony Romo. I just want to see some elite traits. Matt, do you want to throw anything in there to close that one out?
No, I don't have Rattler above Slovis. For me, it's still Jaden Daniels, but I mean, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. Slovis, I was always kind of worried about the year he had last year. I wasn't sure he was really showing us what he is. I think he struggles against pressure and everything. Not that a lot of quarterbacks do, but I've just not been as high on Slovis. I think for me right now, I still have him right ahead of Rattler, though, right now. I have Slovis 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, when I'm time to actually go back and look more at Rattler and Slovis, that I wouldn't move him ahead of him.
All right, last Devy debate question here. I'm not sure that anyone had as a big of a blow up at the end of the season as Kayshon Boutte, LSU wide receiver, I believe the 3rd ranked wide receiver in this class, 14 receptions for 308 yards against Ole Miss and 3 touchdowns, looking like something like Deshaun Jackson or something out there. Should we be considering Boutte as the top-ranked wide receiver in a really stacked class with all three Ohio State freshmen? You got Rakim Jarrett, the athletic Damon Demas, who hasn't saw the field. But early after their first year, should Boutte be elevated to number one? I am still going to take Fleming. I love Fleming's athleticism. And his profile coming out, he's one of the highest ranked recruited receivers ever, according to the 24/7 rankings. And we haven't seen it yet. I think that it's coming. And I also like Fleming's physical profile. He's 6'2", 200 and some odd pounds. Kayshon Boutte is a little bit smaller, listed at 185. I think he can probably get up to 200. I might be more attracted to him there if he doesn't lose any speed. But, that is 14 receptions and 300 yards. The games like that don't come around often. I could be looking stupid, next year if he blows up again next year. But as of right now, I still really like Julian Fleming, obviously, because he was the highest rated receiver in that class. Austin, what are you going to move Boutte up in your rankings to number one?
I did it. Yeah. So this is the time of the year where I really start to move guys significantly around my board as I can finally sit down and watch guys more closely. And we have a full season of a body of work from most of them. Coming into the year, I had 3 receivers in this class that I thought were, I don't want to say clearly the top 3, but there was a little bit of separation between these 3 and everybody else. I had JSN number 1. I had Boutte number 2. And then I had Rakim Jarrett at Maryland number 3. And I always assumed that Jarrett would be the guy that would jump out hot because he was just going to have more opportunity at Maryland, and that Boutte and JSN would start a little slower. And then Jamar Chase opted out. And then Eric Gilbert opted out, and Terrace Marshall opted out. And we got down to the point where LSU just didn't really have anybody left, and he became the de facto number 1 option. By he, I mean Boutte. Since Terrace Marshall opted out after the game against Texas A&M on November 28th, his game logs against Alabama, 8 catches, 111 yards. Against Florida, 5 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. And then, like you said, this past week, 14 for 308 and 3 touchdowns. The SEC is not the man's game defensively that I think it was 5 or 10 years ago, and I think it is still coasting on that reputation a little bit. But Boutte has been extremely impressive. He wins deep, intermediate, short. He can win across the middle. He can win on the boundary. I'll take the guy that had just the better overall season, and because I like that freshman breakout, and I think he's going to be the leader of that wide receiver corps for the next couple of years. So I think he's going to continue to just keep killing it. So I mean, a two from one jump isn't anything crazy for me. So yeah, I did it.
All right, no argument from me. Let's close out a show filled with fireworks, with parting shots burning. Why don't you start us off?
Well, I'm just going to get ready to start setting up all of us scarlet and gray homers for what's about to happen next week. And I am getting absolutely sick of Dabo Swinney. He is the most annoying. He is the most annoying coach in college football, in my opinion. All he does is, woe is me. We're just so lucky to be here. And, we're not even that good. But, hey, he went into a whole thing a couple years ago when they got blown out. Or, no, when they beat Alabama, I believe. And Alabama coach Nick Saban said he felt it was because they were fresher, because they played a softer schedule and they didn't play as many games. And Dabo Swinney said, no, we weren't fresher. Football's football. We're out there hitting guys just like they are. It was a fair game. Then he comes out this year and says, oh, well, no, it's not fair for Ohio State to make the playoffs because they had to play less games. They're fresher than us. They don't have the injuries. Get the out of here, dude. Stop being such a pansy. You're probably going to wipe the floor with Ohio State. Good for you. But all this crap that he talks all the time to me is just the most annoying person in the world. Every time I see him on, and I don't watch a whole lot of ESPN, but when I do, he's always on there. I just want to punch him in the face. Dabo, if you ever watch this, I hate you, man. And I don't say that lightly, but you just annoy the living crap out of me. It goes back to what happened earlier in the year with the Florida State thing as well, where he brought an offensive lineman who tested positive for COVID and then wanted to blame Florida State for opting out of the game when he shouldn't have brought the backup offensive lineman to play the game anyways. The dude tested positive for COVID. Leave him at home. You're not playing him anyways. You were the reason they canceled the game, not Florida State. Stop blaming everybody else for your stupid problems. I hope Ohio State whoops your ass next Friday so that everybody can rub in that face that 11 ranking in the coaches poll, because Coastal Carolina is better than Ohio State and Cincinnati is better than Ohio State and whomever else other stupid schools you put up there over Ohio State. You want to rank them 6th, 7th? That's fair. That's fair. They only did play 6 games. 11th? Get the fuck out of here, man. That was it. I was done. That was it.
Go ahead, Austin.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about, so I apologize to everybody now. The NCAA has to do something about how they decide what teams go to what bowl games. And I didn't really. So when I originally sat down to write a little bit about this, I wanted to talk about Coastal Carolina and how they just got snubbed completely by their bowl game. They're going to the Cure Bowl. Prior to this year, I'd never heard of the Cure Bowl. Apparently, it's been around since 2015. So, a long-standing history of epic matchups and historic teams, apparently, that have gone through there. So, Coastal Carolina is going to play Liberty in that game, and it's not what anybody wants. And the only reason that they have to go to that game in the first place is because the Cure Bowl gets the champion of the Sun Belt no matter what. They are contractually obligated to take that team unless they make the college football playoff or one of the New York Six Bowls, which they will never, ever, ever do. They need to get rid of the contractual obligations for these bowls to take teams. I don't know how they want to do it, if you want to tier up certain games and then give them a pool of teams to choose from. But it's ridiculous that we watched that BYU Coastal Carolina game. We thought that was going to be a de facto New York Six playoff game, and it probably was for BYU, but I don't think they ever had the intention of putting Coastal in a meaningful game. I just don't believe that. So I'm going to watch that game because I'm interested to see. I want them to just go out there and destroy Liberty as a big old middle finger to the college football selection committee. But the NCAA really has to do something about how they decide these games.
All right, I will close us out. When we first started doing this segment, I had envisioned a sports reporters type parting shot, and so I've prepared something that I'm going to read here. In a year marred by sickness and sadness, I'm truly grateful for the reprieve offered by the college football season. As a story, college football is such a compelling tale because it is always evolving. An endless number of new characters are constantly being introduced, and old characters are given new and expanded roles in the plot. With a global pandemic as the backdrop, this season was marked by the planets aligning for an exciting young quarterback, heaving Mormon prayers from one side of the field to the other. In North Carolina, the prestige of the football program continues to improve at a basketball powerhouse behind the efforts of an ageless old coach, yet another dynamic quarterback, and a backfield tandem that meant bad news for most defenses. Thanks to 2020, I not only know what a Chanticleer is, I know how to pronounce it. Speaking of which, I'll get back to you on Ui Angalele. We learned that Carson Strong is a name to watch and a reason to watch games starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. And let's not forget that earlier this season, a southpaw quarterback at Indiana with a peculiar last name stretched with everything he had to beat a top 10 team for the first time since the Reagan administration. Just a few months after Reagan uttered the famous words, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." And indeed, walls were torn down in 2020. Athletes recognized the powers of their collective voice to affect change in their campuses and in their communities. Communities joined together to recognize and combat the effects of racism, and collectively we learned how to survive, not just in life and living, but in spirit and connecting. We at the Devy Debate have enjoyed connecting with you with this new show. That is going to be our show for tonight. You can find our written content at Dynasty Nerds. email the show at devydebate@gmail.com, tweet at the show at devydebate. Our apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. Good?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Are you okay? Do you need to breathe?
Right.
Do you need like a...
I'm golden, baby.
That was good. I thought that was good.
Had to bring the heat a little bit. You guys
I thought that was the best. I think the best show was the one with Alfred. I think that this one is up there too. So it's just totally not. I mean, the only way that you can have an argument against Zach Wilson and say, well, look how he played as a sophomore. Like,
it's not even just that. It's just, I do think you have to take some into effect the defenses that he's playing. When you're not playing against NFL talented defenders, that it's going to change. You don't get like
why is that? Why is that? Because he played the 67th defense. On average, Justin Fields has only played the 48th ranked defense this season. So I mean,
that's 20 spots better than Zach Wilson's, is my point. No, what I'm saying is Zach Wilson doesn't play against NFL type defenders. And what I was going to say, but again, you guys, all you Zach guys get so upset when we bring his name up, like we're taking his name.
Wasn't nobody upset over here. I'm not sensitive. Go ahead.
Like the throw he made yesterday in that game, that an NFL defender is not going to stop that. So I'm not arguing that part about it, but I just think some of the things he does everybody wants to compare him to Mahomes and Wilson because of what he does on the college field. I don't think he's going to be able to do that as much on the NFL field. I'm not saying he's not going to be able to. He deserves to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted. If he goes as a second quarterback, it's not going to surprise me one bit. I just don't think he's as talented as Field and Lawrence. That's it. That's all my argument is. I have nothing against.
I think Zach captures the imagination. He makes you believe things are possible that weren't previously possible. I mean,
he's got the sexy plays.
Listen, I hope that you're right. As a matter of fact, I hope that like 3 quarterbacks go ahead of Zach because one of the reasons that I liked him, I was like, oh, snap. This is a talented quarterback who's going to fall to the 15-20 range and be able to get picked by, San Francisco or New Orleans or one of those teams. I don't want to see him play for the Jets. I want your boy to play for the Jets.
I don't want him to play for the Jets.
I want Justin Fields to go to the Jets, and then we'll see what Zach Wilson does with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, so
yeah, give him a great head coach and offensive talent around him. Like he's going to be bad. That's not a fair comparison. When you pair,
you didn't give a fair comparison earlier. That was not a fair comparison. Talking about what he did. I mean, everybody knows it's not in dispute that Zach Wilson is having a better season than he had last year. I mean, but that's the thing is that throw those statistics together. It's like that's not what we're basing the opinion on. Is his sophomore stats. So
I wasn't just his sophomore stats. So it was the stats that he put up this year, where he put up better numbers. Than almost as good, if not better numbers than Justin Fields did last year. That's my point. I took their best years with their worst years. Now, Trevor Lawrence didn't really have a bad year, so it was kind of hard to find. So I just used the last 2 years. But Wilson stats this year are very comparable to what Fields did last year. Outside of, I think Wilson's thrown like 2 more interceptions. So big deal. That's why
Joe Burrow completed 57% of his passes in 2018 for 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I mean, I'm just like, we can have an opinion based on how well he has played this season.
I'm not saying we're not. I'm having that discussion. I'm saying he's good. But you guys failed to do is discount the year he had last year, which still matters. Because
why are you saying you guys? I prefer Justin.
I know. I'm not talking about you, Austin. I'm talking about the Zach Wilson.
I'm not saying I don't prefer. All I'm saying is that should Zach Wilson be in this conversation? You're like, no, it shouldn't be. No, he can't be in the conversation at all. Then let's just okay, fine.
In my opinion, no. It's Fields and Lawrence and then everybody else. That's my opinion. I don't put him up there with Fields and Lawrence. I don't. Or I don't put him up there with Lawrence like other people do. I am not going to take the 1 year he's had, just like Joe Burrow. Like, yeah, you're right. But you're talking about Joe Burrow's bad year. So if I would have done that for Joe Burrow, guess what? He still would have come out amazing in those statistics because of the year he had last year. That's the whole point of me doing that exercise was I took both years, a good year and a bad year, to compare him with a good year.
The only reason you did that is to include Zach Wilson's bad year.
No, actually, the only reason I did that was because Justin Fields has played 6 games this year, and that's not a fair comparison to me. So I went back to last year where he played a full season. I didn't know Zach Wilson. I mean, it wasn't a great year, but it also wasn't that bad. I didn't realize his year was that bad. I didn't watch him that much last year. We've talked about that before. You were someone who was talking about him before the year. I wasn't on Zach Wilson that much until the offseason started rolling around and I started watching some. I was like, okay, this kid's good. I didn't think he was going to be this good. He's turned me into a believer. I just don't think he's as good as those other two.
I was watching the show like on my phone as we were going, and it said we only had 1 viewer, and 1 would be like the lowest. That's just not.
No, that it depends on what were you watching it on?
On my phone. I was just
what app? Twitter? Because they come and go. Most of the people we have on are YouTube. That's what we got comments in here from YouTube stuff.
Oh, I didn't even see you. Where did comments come from?
Oh, they
come
were
up on the right side.
I just didn't like the chosen one. He comes on to my other show a lot. He's a big Browns fan. I just didn't put him on this. It was NFL stuff. So, but no, we still have someone watching right now on YouTube, or no, I'm sorry, Twitch right now. I can't see YouTube's for some reason, but no, they come in and out. I don't know. I don't know. It's not always accurate, but.
Well, I thought it was a good show.
So let's see here. We had 96 viewers throughout the show.
I thought that you were going to come with, Zach Wilson he hasn't played. Well, I mean, let's not if we're going to use defense as a statistic, let's use defense as a statistic, because I saw you put that on Twitter, is that he was playing well against the 67th.
Oh, I was being facetious though when I was saying that. I said that when he commented back about something, and I was like, I'm just kidding. That's not the end all be all. It's a data point. You have to, in my opinion, just from the way I scout quarterbacks, maybe I'm the only one who does it this way. I don't know. I was just on a show with Jacob Vines doing this the other day, and I try to use as many data points as possible when scouting prospects, because I don't think you can I've learned that you can't just take what you see with your eyes all the time. I mean, same like Ronald Jones was a guy that I just watched with my eyes, and I was like, dude, this kid's phenomenal. And it didn't work out that way. When you dove into some of the data points and statistics, it showed that he may not have been as good as I thought my eyes were telling me he was going to be. Now, I still trust my eyes more than anything else, which is, again, why I still think Zach Wilson's going to be a phenomenal quarterback at the NFL level. But I dive into the stats as well to look at different things because I want to see different viewpoints. I want to see what some of those things show me. What I mean when I put that defensive stuff on there, and I feel like Austin agrees with me because he kept shaking his head, was outside of a couple games last year, Wilson did not play like NFL defenders that were going to be in the NFL. I understand college players, you're still playing in college. You're a phenomenal athlete. You're 10 times better an athlete than I'm ever going to be in my life. I'm not trying to discount anybody who's just a college football player. But I think we can all admit there's a step up from what you do in college to what you do in NFL as a defender. So when he played, I can't remember, there was one game that he played a couple NFL defenders. He actually had a really good game.
But Tennessee, USC?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it may have been the USC game, but like when he played Utah, they had a couple NFL defenders. Not a good game. There's another one. Not a good game. And it wasn't a bad game either. It was kind of like that Coastal Carolina game, which again, we agreed when we talked about after the show. It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't a great game like we saw last night at the Boca Raton game. That's all I've said about Zach Wilson. I know you're not saying this, but you go on Twitter right now and look up Zach Wilson, and everybody's talking about him, the next coming of Jesus at the quarterback position. I just don't think he's that good. He has the ceiling to get to Fields and Lawrence. I believe that. I think he's the only one out of those other guys that has the ceiling to get there. I don't think he's there right now. I think Fields and Lawrence are there now going into the NFL.
I think it's important to note, one is that he only has 4 interceptable passes. That tweet from PFF.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But Zach Wilson made a lot of he took unnecessary hits and stuff as a freshman and sophomore trying to extend plays, and he would fumble after a 6 or 7 yard run. He doesn't do that anymore. He doesn't take hits. He'll go down. He's just showing more maturity when the ball is in the air and it's when it's in his hand on the ground. So bowl season is almost over. We're going to go back and watch his freshman game against Western Kalamazoo. Stand up, 18 for 18, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, whatever. It is. I think it is important to know a true freshman quarterback culminating their season with an outstanding game. And then his sophomore season, he started against Utah, but then he played Tennessee and USC and beat both of those teams, beat Tennessee at Tennessee. He has one more SEC win than Justin Fields has in his career. So in that game, 19 for 29, 232 yards, 1 touchdown in the win. USC at home, 20 for 23, 280 yards, 1 touchdown. I'm not going to fault Zach Wilson is patiently aggressive. So he'll look for to take the shot downfield, and then when it isn't there, he'll take what's given to him. I don't have a problem. That's what he did versus Coastal Carolina. Yeah. They were rushing 3, getting pressure with 3, and so he was taking what he was given. I don't have a problem if he plays within the structure of the offense, because if the structure of that offense is Kyle Shanahan's offense, he's going to have a much higher ceiling than Nick Mullins and Jimmy Garoppolo, because what he can do when the pocket is moving. They already do that at BYU. And you throw Brandon Ayuk there and you give them, Tutu Atwell or somebody else who can stretch the defense with George Kittle in the middle. Man, I just hoped, I swear to God, I hope to God he goes to
I don't think he
San Francisco.
10. Like I said, I don't hate people when I say that I don't think Wilson's as good as Fields. People just they automatically take that as you hate him, and I just don't. I think he's a phenomenal player. Like I said, you can say I have scarlet and gray glasses on. That's fine. I just think Fields is better. I mean, I go back to I don't think Zach Wilson does to Clemson what Fields did last year. And I went back and rewatched that game the other day. Outside of Isaiah Simmons, who's an absolute beast to begin with, who makes that phenomenal interception for the first one, if Olave doesn't fall down, Fields throws 2 interceptions the entire year. Going up against much better defense. Penn State was a 3rd-ranked defense last year. Easily beat them. Michigan State, 15th-ranked defense last year. Easily beats them. Like, Fields has shown that he can play that top-tier talent. Now, I'm not saying Wilson can't. That's one of the things I hated about this season. We would have seen that, right? The BYU had good games on their schedule. We didn't get to see that. So I can't say that Wilson can't do that because I didn't get the opportunity to watch it.
Since I've got it, let me just get this on the record for the record. Justin Fields this season, defensive rankings: Nebraska 52, Penn State 17, Rutgers 103, Indiana 36, Michigan State 57, Northwestern 24. So the average is 48.
No, that's
just for the records, so I can appeal that issue later on if I need to. So.
Well, okay, if you're gonna do that, though, go look at BYU's with Navy down at like 126 and someone else at 132, and their highest one was.
What defenses was Patrick Mahomes playing against in the Big 12 at Texas Tech? I mean, I agree with you.
But then you can't compare Patrick Mahomes to Zach Wilson. That's my issue.
Why can't you can't say that? No, hold on. We can say level of competition isn't the end all be all. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying it is. Again, I said it's a data point. I'm not saying it's
why can't I bring up Patrick Mahomes when I'm saying it?
I thought you were comparing Mahomes to Wilson. I thought you were comparing those two together as like a prospect.
I just asked the question. I said, let's go back and see what the defensive rankings were for the defenses that Patrick Mahomes played at Texas Tech. That's my point. I mean, we've had. Carson Wentz. What were his defenses ranked when he was playing? I don't even know who's in that conference with North Dakota State.
I don't know.
Austin, I wanted to get your take on. Do you have a take on Jason Corbin?
Yeah, I think he's a really big post-hype sleeper because I actually expected him to do something last year and he didn't do anything.
Oh, really? Okay. So,
but I also really like Toafili. And it surprised me when they let Corbin do the quarterback direct snaps because that's what Toafili did in high school. If you've watched his high school stuff, that's like he wasn't really a running back in high school. He was like a direct snap. Like that was the offense they ran in his high school. So that tells me a lot that they were giving him those snaps over Toafili.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd buy him.
I had like 3 guys that I wanted to talk about, and then I was like, we could just do it again next week. I mean, there's no reason to do it all right now. So
yeah, that's what we're doing on my other show. We're just breaking up all that stuff into a bunch of separate episodes, and yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like I told you before, I really like that show. I mean, it gives me a heads up on the incoming class, and it's just very detailed. I'm like, man, I need to do some more studying. I want to start doing rankings as a way of taking notes. But instead of having a spreadsheet, you know how in a queue you can drag the cell to where you want it? That's what I would like to do, is to be able to have like a player, a name, a school, and then have my notes and comments. And then if I want to rank Keishawn Boutte number 1 over whoever, I can just drag that set of cells to where I want it. Is there something like that out there that I could use to do that?
I have no idea. I do not know how to use spreadsheets like at all. It takes me forever just to put together the shit I put together for the show today. I suck with spreadsheets.
You should ask JWAC Jared, because he has that Patreon that like he has like that whole like I don't know what program they use.
No, he sold it to Ray, but you're talking about the Notion app. It's the Notion thing that he had.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what Ray does all of his stuff on. Jared created like an entire college database on Notion. It was legit, and then he hang on, my wife is calling me, but he sold it to Ray because Dynasty. Oh, I don't want to talk about this when we're live, but Ray owns it now. I'll talk about that stuff off air.
Oh man, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if that stuff is more drag or drop or not. I put all my notes for. Oh, go ahead.
I have a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, but it's not what I want it to be, because I want to be able to move the stuff. Like if I think, that if I'm gonna rank Travion Henderson above the quarterbacks, I want to be able to do that and not go to like a running back tab. It's just not as. I need something more functional that I can use again the way like a queue is used on Fantrax. So
I keep everything on one page. Like if you look at here, let's see here. Is it sharing my screen?
No.
I think Matt probably has to accept it. I just have like all of it on one tab, and like each of my separate tabs are like my month by month. And then I have like Rondale Moore, and then I have like beside him a tab that just says report, and it links to a Google Doc. So it's not like drag and drop necessarily, but I don't have to worry about like moving a ton of stuff because it just says.
So you take notes on Google Doc and it's linked in your spreadsheet?
Yeah. I link all of them separately.
Yeah, I just need. That sounds like something that I want to do, because I want to have everything in one place. Like I've got lists on I have stuff in a lot of different places. Like I have lists on my phone and this List Master app, and so I have the prospects eligible through classes, and I just take notes and stuff. But
here, what's your email? I'll share my doc with you.
Yeah, fhsharp@gmail.com.
All right, I think I just shared it with you.
So Cheney, we were in this draft together, and he took Downs, and was like, "You took Downs," and he's like, "Yeah, I really like him." I was like, "I watched him, I just didn't see, anything stand out as far as high school film, and it takes a lot for stuff to stand out on high school film." And he told me to go watch these one-on-ones from like camp, and I was like, "Okay." Right.
Yeah, he was good, and he tore up the All-American game last year. So,
okay.
I think he was probably he had the biggest statistical night of anybody there. So he was like my wide receiver, like 7, maybe 6, 7, something like that coming into the year. I liked him quite a bit. There were just a lot of guys in this year's class, I think even more than usual, that were like this past freshman class, where it was like I understand that I'm not going to get to see them play at all as a freshman. Like Downs, Gary Bryant. I thought Boutte would be like that. JSN.
That's why I think it's really. I mean, I think it would be really good to. And I'm not an analytics person, but I just want to know to what extent is a red shirt just a career? Because I feel like the understood consensus is that you can't be redshirted, because then you don't get the freshman breakout age, and your path towards NFL fantasy relevance is diminished because you didn't play it as a freshman. So you always want to see some production. But we're not going to see any production from a lot of these players. Like we were talking about Malachi Wideman. I like Malachi Wideman, but he didn't do anything this year.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gary Bryant. I mean, I saw him return a kick last week in that game, but a lot of these players aren't going to do anything. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be unique to this class because of the pandemic, or if it's something that that we should consider for next year also. So
I'm writing an article on that right now about I'm trying to put like a numerical value on like are we going to see fewer like 18-year-old breakouts? Like, are we going to have to find another statistic to try to compare? Because like you just see there's a pooling of talent at schools, and that's like the big problem. I mean, you saw like you said, Gary Bryant, all the Ohio State guys, all the Alabama guys, the Tennessee guys, the LSU guys, like they all go to the same schools. So I think we are going to see a shift. I'm not exactly sure what's going to replace it.
I just don't think that matters as much, but maybe that's just me. Like Joe Burrow.
Breakout ages?
Yeah, because for me, it's when you get on the field. So like Joe Burrow, the breakout age didn't matter. When he finally got his shot on the field, really with LSU, he breaks out. I understand like Jamar Jefferson. He had an 18-year-old breaking age. I don't think he's going to be like
it's something that I care about at wide receiver more than the other positions.
Okay, gotcha.
I want to see it at quarter. It's really at wide receiver that I really want to see that. So
I don't know. I don't like. I'm pretty sure Beckham didn't have an 18-year-old breakout age, did he?
It's just I don't want to see like a 22-year-old breakout age, which is why like a lot of people are off on Tamarion Terry because he's an older prospect, and so.
Well, my biggest problem with Terry, besides his hands, is that he never. I never really felt like he felt like an alpha in college, but that's what like his like traits. Like people want to say that he has the traits to do that, and he never did that in college. He's fallen quite a bit for me this year. He's probably been my biggest disappointment.
I've seen him.
That sounds.
You're so glad that you sold him.
I traded him. Yeah, I traded him early in the year before he. It was like right before I think he got the suspension or whatever for that one game, and then ended up opting out. I traded him for G. Scott straight up. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who was your breakout, Bruning?
Quinton Johnston.
Oh yeah. Brandon really likes him too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got him in a bunch of my C2C leagues. I liked him coming out. I did our freshman profile on him for Devy nerds or Dynasty.
Okay.
Nerds, I'm sorry. And so
one of the players that I was considering adding here was Darwin Barlow as a potential breakout, because I think that they're going to continue to split carries. So
I just don't want to watch TCU anymore.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I think makes it even more impressive that he was able to do what he's done so far this year as a true freshman in that horrible offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know how TCU can't recruit better quarterbacks when they're in the heart of Texas.
Because nobody wants to go there. All anybody cares about down here is UT, man.
I mean, SMU got Preston Stone this year. Is he a legacy or something?
Well, that I don't know.
Because, yeah, I mean, that's bizarre to me. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you, man. That's all it is. It's all about UT down here. And I would say 90% of the people who cheer for UT didn't even go to UT here. So it's just it's very annoying.
Oh, that's Penn State. That's Penn State where I grew up. So I get it. I mean,
I love it because, all they want to talk about is, they're back. And then every time they lose, that's all I do is just rub it into every Texas fan that I know.
Matt, did you want us to record something for the draft profile thing?
We can. We didn't even talk about it on the episode.
We didn't even
have to bring it up. No, we didn't mention it. I mean, I can record something now and then throw it in at the beginning if you want, right before you or at the end.
No. I think, I think if we just do them and release them, people will be like, oh, okay, this is something new and different. But you were thinking about doing a new intro for those?
Yeah, I was going to do a different intro, so they
Okay.
didn't think it was the same episode.
Right.
Like, I was just going to – I mean, I can record it. We're still live. I can just take us off live and record. I'll just mark on my computer when you guys started talking about it going. I was just going to record, like, you guys saying, like, with Austin, you know, what he looks for in a wide receiver, kind of like I did with the Jahmyr Gibbs. You talked about Zach Wilson. I did my G. Scott thing and just give a little thing of that, maybe throw in something. I was trying to find some clips yesterday. I got some pretty good ones from the GOAT, Gus Johnson, and then I was trying to find some other stuff, and then was just going to kind of clip together.
University of Detroit Jesuit product, by the way. Gus
Dude's
Johnson.
phenomenal. The best. He's the best.
I met him at a Michigan State game.
Nice. You doing?
I'm so hungry. I never eat like in the evening when we're doing this show because I'm getting ready for the show. So it's 11 or it's 10. Why does my clock say 11? 10:04. I'm gonna have to have Taco Bell.
There you go.
Ooh, yummy.
I mean, it's the only thing that's around that'll be open.
I'm at my in-laws. I've been eating all day and drinking all day, so
Yeah,
that's where I'm at this point.
Are you and Colin releasing another show this week?
No, we're not doing a Thursday one this week. Christmas
What's
Eve.
the difference between the two shows? One's NFL and one is college.
Yeah, and like the NFL one, we still try to keep it like, you know, if we're discussing guys, we'll say, you know, like value compared to like a college guy. Like, can we always try to tie it in, but yeah, the Thursday one's always more NFL related.
Okay.
So.
Like I'm telling you, like I just don't like. I listen to the Dan Le Batard show. I listen to your show now. I listen to Brandon's show, and then whenever the Devy like happy hour is released, I listen to that show. So, and then I watch Bruning's shows whenever he posts them.
Yeah, I missed yesterday's show, but I usually try to catch at least part of Matt's.
For some reason, I find myself watching the recruiting show, and I'm like, this isn't even for me. Like, I'm not even in the league.
It's funny. I was talking to Carl about that earlier today, and he was like, man, he wishes that you would have gotten into this league. It's so much fun, man. It's awesome. I don't think anybody else is going to drop out.
I think I had a bad experience with a salary cap league and how much time it took. And the fact that my team was stacked and I actually did a good job managing the team, but for some reason in a super flex league, I can't make the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. And I just like, fuck dude, I can't play in this league anymore. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Chris Godwin, Corey Davis, Evan Ingram at tight end can't make the playoffs 2 years in a row. I'm just like, I'm not trying to get somebody else to take this team.
It's the same thing as mine. My main dynasty league. I mean, I've got Baker, Josh Allen, Saquon, Chubb, Zeke, Gio Bernard, and then Odell, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, Hakeem Butler, Paris Campbell, and Deontay Johnson. And then I have George Kittle, Jonnu Smith, Harrison Bryant at tight end. Finished 6-7 this year. Didn't make the playoffs. And I've only won one championship.
That's so frustrating.
One championship in 7 years with that team.
What are you going to do with Zeke?
I'm keeping him. I think he's going to bounce back next year. It's funny on my other show. I told everybody to sell him going into this year because like his value is not going to be any higher, and I didn't do it. I was like, you know what? Because I was in a championship run, then it just didn't work out for me. Losing Kittle, Chubb being out for 6 weeks, Barkley going down in week 2. I was stringing together. It was literally Zeke with his crappy weeks and Giovanni Bernard when Mixon went down were my only running backs. I had Gaskin, but I traded him. I ended up trading him. Hopkins, who else did I trade? And Preston Williams in multiple deals to end up getting back. I now have 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, 2/3, and Deontay Johnson, Damian Harris. We're all mixed in together with those moves for this year.
I think the saving grace for Zeke is going to be that, you know, there's not a like who's going to in the next 2 classes, who's going to take the ball away? I mean, Tony Pollard might, but maybe
that's my only fear. I wonder if they go to more of like a 50-50 split.
But I mean, I just think that the strength of the next 2 classes is just like, we can still kind of count. I mean, get Zeke at a discount because would I rather have Isaiah Spiller or Zeke?
Spiller. I'm telling you, I completely came around on Spiller this year.
Yeah.
He looks legit. Like I'm.
Yeah, he does.
If Hall hadn't had such a big year, he probably would have jumped Hall for me.
But who's the second? Kyron Williams the next back in that class? I mean, would you rather have Kyron Williams or Zeke?
Zeke.
I think you would rather have Zeke, right?
Well, see, I think
in like a one, you're competing for a championship. Would you rather have Kyron Williams or Zeke? I mean, I think you would rather have.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't think any of my league mates are watching this right now. I'm gonna try and move him this offseason. The lady in our league that has the number 1 pick is a massive Cowboys fan, so I'm hoping I can just be like, just give me 1-1 for Zeke. I don't even want anything else because I think he costs more than that. I was like, just give me the 1-1. You take Zeke, get your running back because she's got 2 good running backs outside of him. I was like, now you got another stud running back. I'll take Damian Harris. We'll be good. Go about our day. And I still got 2 other first-round picks.
In a C2C, I think I would rather have Kyron Williams. Is that a hot take?
Well, I don't know, but you said that you have you put a greater value on winning on the college side.
I do.
So, I mean, and Kyron Williams helps you do that. So, I think like the 30th round of this C2C startup, and Malik Willis is still on the board. I mean,
he's not an NFL guy. I mean, you can find like 12 guys.
I know, but if you're talking about winning on the college side, I mean, he's got to be in consideration for QB1 on the college side next year, right?
If he doesn't come out, I think he could be a backup at the NFL level, but I don't think he may come out. I don't know if he'll go back because Liberty's changing everything, aren't they? Head coach, everything.
Is Freeze leaving? I hadn't heard that.
I thought so. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought he did something. Something happened at Liberty and caused a bunch of issues.
Well, Malik Hornsby was drafted. Malik Hornsby was drafted at quarterback.
I mean, I would have taken Malik Willis over Hornsby. Hornsby's at Arkansas, right?
Yeah, he's at Arkansas, and I like KJ Jefferson. So.
Yeah, he's not even going to play. That's just dumb.
Right. That's somebody who's going to transfer. What color is quarterback on this thing? Red. Like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's not an NFL guy.
Mm-mm. I dropped him in a C2C this year. This year was a little weird though, like because none of my leagues played. Like those kind of guys, I just dropped. I was like, I'm just gonna stash.
I hope we get 12 games next year. I hope we get 12 games next season.
Hey, what did you vote for, by the way, Austin, in the poll for the championship?
Once you re-rolled it, I would send both teams personally, but
that's what
I think.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think we started the playoffs too early. I would rather just have the final 4 teams play in week 16 and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't know. I that's what everybody's saying, but I just don't like the fact that you're technically playing up against 2 teams. It's what I don't like about for Jared either. Like Jared, I know Jared's cool with it, but what happens if say that I was to actually beat Alfred this week, say whatever, he got negative 11 yards instead of 10 yards on that fumble, Juju did, and then I go into the championship and Jared were to beat me, but since we're both going in and say Alfred would outscore me, so now Alfred wins the Super Bowl, and actually Jared should have won it had I made it through, if that makes sense. So I don't like that you're playing 2 people. I think it should be 1v1, and that will change some next year. Well, now they're saying that may not happen, but with them talking about going to the 18-game schedule, I think it have made it even better. I don't know. I mean, that's what Scott Fishbowl does. Their championship is this week. Everybody playing each other. They go in a week early to kind of separate everything. I know people had an issue with the bye week thing, but like I said, I went back 10 years and it's happened one other time outside of this year. Teams had a bye week in week 13. So I don't know.
Well, just seemed like there was one person that had an issue with it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he ended up getting destroyed anyway. He didn't even have anybody on a bye. So
yeah. Yep.
Oh, I don't know. We need to figure out when we're going to start ours up too.
I'll probably start here in the next week or two. I have some bylaws like drawn up for C2Cs. I mean, I'd have to modify them a little bit because we're definitely doing like a snake draft, right? If we do one.
Yeah, I would think so.
Don't you think the 3 of us should own a team together so that we can include 11 or 13? No? You want to compete? You
I
want to
want
compete?
my own team.
You want to compete?
If you two want to have a team, go for it. I want my
That
own.
logs off, and I sell all the Ohio State
All right,
guys. over there.
Exactly.
So,
Because what's going to happen is I'm going to go in and change the password on both you guys so I can just go in and draft the guys that I want because I feel like we have differences of opinions on certain players, and I want my guys. I mean, we can make it 14 teams or something like that, 16-teamer, especially if we go add a little bit defense in there.
I love deeper. I love deeper leagues. I love deeper leagues.
I think with I mean, shit, dude, I didn't even say where we got up to 245 downloads the last 2 episodes. Where people are downloading, and that's different than Twitter. Like Twitter, the viewers, you have to watch a certain amount of it to be considered a viewer. I think it's like 10 minutes worth. So, like, you've got 96.
No, I looked at it again, and it was up to 104. So
yeah. So there's people who are watching. There's people who are interested. I think we could get 14, 16 if we want. I'm cool with whatever. I'm in a couple 16-team IDP heavy dynasty leagues. I think especially if you limit it some on the offensive side, like in those you can only play. Well, so you can't C to C is going to have to be 2 quarterbacks, so that'll make it even more interesting, I think, especially on the NFL side. And like some of the 16-teamers I'm in, it's 1 quarterback. You start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and then you got a bunch of heavy IDP stuff. It makes it a little bit more interesting.
I still want to do 2 quarterback super flex, but I think we should do 14 teams then.
That's fine. I'm cool with whatever. It doesn't. I just want my own team because I know G. Scott won't be drafted if the 3 of us are on the same team.
I love me some G. Scott. I don't want to say that publicly, but I mean, I like route running. And I mean, I said that like on the first episode of the show. So,
Carl wants us to talk about Jalen Hyatt next week.
Carl. Oh, did he tweet at it? Tweet at the show?
Talk about Jalen Hyatt as he's the one the freshman there at Tennessee that actually is playing.
Yeah.
So I thought that he would have made some more. I mean, might be the fastest wide receiver in that class. I thought that I would have saw him make some Keyshawn Boutte plays, but let me see what he's done a little bit.
Well, I don't know what their coaching staff's doing, but I also am not a believer in Harrison Bryant or whatever his name is.
Harrison Bailey.
Bailey, yeah. I don't know why I said Harrison Bryant. Yeah, I'm not a huge believer.
Brandon loves him too.
I mean, he played at the same high school as Eric Gilbert, and if I had to bet money on one of them making the other one, it ain't Bailey making Gilbert. So
yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
Jalen Hyatt has 20 receptions for 270. He's only averaging 13.8 a catch. I mean, I would think with all that speed, he would be up in the 15, 16, 17 range. But Jalen Hyatt played at one of the Carolina schools, and he played in like Carolina's all-star game with Mason Garcia. And Mason Garcia was like this player I was our 4-star quarterback. I was really high on going to ECU, and then got a start because Ehlers was, I think he had COVID. I think Ehlers had COVID, and so Garcia started against Navy, and it was just like, oh, this dude can't play football. This dude can't play football.
It's interesting because I thought his start was encouraging.
Why?
Like because I thought he was
throw the ball.
I thought he was a huge work in progress. Like I 100% think that, and he had some flashes in that game. Like you can tell that he can't throw timing stuff at all. No. Like you'd watch him 3-step drop and like then look like he wasn't like there was no timing there at all. But I think he can learn that. And there were some throws. There were a couple throws he made in that game where I was like, there's like a guy. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm not like holding my breath that he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I think.
Well, I mean, he was comped to Josh Allen 24/7, and I thought because he was a much ballyhooed prospect that he would get the opportunity. But I shouldn't have thought that because Ehlers is a good quarterback. But Ehlers is a senior, right? Ehlers is not eligible. Well, I guess technically he is eligible.
I think he's like a redshirt junior. I don't think he's a senior.
Okay. So
see here. Junior. He's listed as a junior on their website.
Okay. So he could have 2 more years.
Yeah.
So do you like CJ Johnson, or are you not a CJ Johnson? I feel like he's a polarizing.
Man, I loved him coming into this year, and then he didn't do that much. He dropped
Pro or
and Snead. Yeah, he dropped.
Snead, yeah.
I mean, he's like I thought what he was going to be what like Treylon Burks is basically, and then Burks just like took off like a rocket, and I was like, okay, never mind.
That's true because they have like similar body types and yeah. Man, I wish I had some speaking of body types and being thick, I wish I had some train them.
Well, hey,
I thought I had him in the program, but I don't, and that's the only league that I drafted this year where I didn't end up with him.
Who has him?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I looked at it and I don't have him because I was like,
where are you all getting the information? Where are you getting the information about how well these players are looking in the spring and all that stuff?
Oh because man.
When I want to learn about a player, like I'm like reading the newspaper, like Googling their names and reading the newspaper. But
so we're going to do a whole episode of that over on my other show about how we do that because I played like
you said that you knew something about Trent. I'm like, how did you know that he was going to be playing over Nada?
I read an absurd amount of stuff on guys, especially IDP guys. I'll go on fan forums. I'll troll through. Like I have a subscription to The Athletic, and they have an Arizona State writer. I will read anything and everything I can get my hands on. I'll go on 24/7 Sports and check, like, just see if anybody on there has updated anything. Yeah, I just read a ridiculous amount of stuff. So,
speaking of The Athletic, burning Dane Brugler is one of those glue sniffers that has Zach Wilson ahead of.
I know. I saw
the field. So
yeah,
I
probably trust his analysis about as far as I can.
I saw your reaction to that comment, Austin.
I was afraid, like, I wasn't going to pipe up. I have Zach Wilson still as my QB4, man.
He's my QB4 too.
That's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like that's fine. But to say that he doesn't like 2, 3, and 4, I think are interchangeable. So
we'll see. I think that's where
it's Trevor Lawrence tier, and then whoever you want to list below them at 2 through 4. By the way, the more I watch Trey Lance, the more I think that he's going to be just fine. I think that he'll be able to rely on his rushing to get, reacclimated to playing football. But that dude is an athletic. I mean, we talk about Ritter reminding of Colin Kaepernick. I think we should compare Lance to. I didn't even think about that before, but we should compare Lance to Colin Kaepernick. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say I agree with Travis May that it's Fields and Lawrence and then separation tier. So that's all.
Mac Jones isn't my QB.
Eric Crocker. Oh, Crocker has Justin Fields at QB4.
Wow.
And he has Ritter at 5. He has I think he has Trask ahead of him.
I respect his take on Ritter. I will disagree with his his take on Fields.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think I got to head out. My in-laws are patiently waiting for me downstairs.
All right.
That was a good show, guys.
Later.
See you guys next week.
Yeah, Matt. When do you want to? Do you want to do something with just talking about like the wide receiver stuff at some point?
We can. I mean, if you guys want to say it right now, it's recording. I'll just mute myself so you can't hear my kids making all that noise. You can say what you want to say, and then I'll just cut it up and record it, or cut it up and save it.
Like, how long do you want it to be? And
I mean, 10, 15 seconds. Just like you can talk about whatever, and then I'll just cut it into whatever I need to for the intro.
Okay.
It's up to you. You want to do it now?
Yeah, I might as well. Yep. All right. So when I'm looking at wide receivers, first thing I just look at is how they win. And I either need a guy to be able to win in 2 different ways pretty well, or I need them to just be absolutely dominant in one, like the DK Metcalf route. Body type wise, I don't fade any body type, but I have, there's height, cutoffs where I don't want to see shorter than like 5'9". I don't want to see bigger than like 6'5", because I think there's some functionality issues as far as the NFL is concerned. Hands wise, if you have dropsies in college, you're going to get dinged pretty hard for it. I add catch radius into it just because I think it's not like the end all beat all, but if you have a nice catch radius, then it's going to help a quarterback out a lot. And I think it builds up trust. And lastly, I don't ding guys for something if they just aren't asked to do it in college. They might not get like the points for it, but I won't knock them. For instance, like beating press, because a lot of teams in college don't play guys on the line like that. They don't really run press. So if I don't see a guy like not do something, then I'm not going to necessarily fade them for not being able to do it. That's all I got.
Felix, you want to give yours really quick on the running backs? I can't hear you, Felix.
Of the 4 skill position players, I really think that running back is the easiest to scout. We need size, we need speed, we need some lateral agility, and we need that player to be able to be utilized in the passing game in some capacity. And if you don't have one of those things, you get marked down. So it's a position where I think athleticism reigns supreme, where I don't necessarily need to see that at the wide receiver position. I really want to see it at the running back position. So somebody like Devin Singletary is not going to be on any of my teams. That said, I was really high on Kareem Hunt. So size, speed, be utilized in the passing game at the running back position.
All right. Yeah, I'll get that working. When do we want to actually start doing that? Because that's my question. Do we want to do it before or after this show, or we want to do it at a different time in the week? That's what I got to figure out.
Well, I got a tight schedule too.
You're busier with the shows than we are, Matt.
With this, we're done though. This is it, championship week. So I'll move to likely even starting as early as next week. I'll probably move to just 2 shows a week. It'll be Monday. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays is when we do them in the off season. So I'll have this Wednesdays, like I said, in that message. I'm fine at any time. I can do it any night. It's just up to you guys. I know you guys have different stuff than me. My wife works all night long. I've got nothing to do but sit with my kids. So I can make it work whenever. The hardest time for me is the weekends, because that's kind of my one time to spend time with my wife, because I don't get to see her that much during the week.
So, it sounds like maybe another weeknight would work. And we can pick one.
I would say Wednesday or Friday, I think, were the days we were talking about, and either of those would work for me.
So you want to record
or after
this show and okay.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's only half an hour, and regardless, like I get hyped up for the show, and then I can't sleep. Like I stay up and I listen to it at least once before I go to bed. I'm just too
I look for the reactions, because I'm got too much going on to see what you guys are, your facial expressions. So that's what I always want to see watching the show.
Well, if we're going to do this stuff like on Wednesdays, I'd prefer to do it beforehand, because then that's cutting 2 shows up really quick and doing it, and that's gonna kill me. I mean, not that I can do it anyways, but yeah, we wouldn't be able to.
Are you on vacation, or are you working now?
No, I work tomorrow.
Damn, man.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
See, I'm not. Okay.
Our office was closed today too. I didn't work at all today.
I had to go to the jail for a few hours, but I didn't really. All right. Well, let's let Bruning.
Yeah, I'll cut that up. I'll save that stuff and I'll cut that up. I'll work on a intro. How soon do you guys want to start doing that? Like next week, 2 weeks? What do you think?
All right, so I can put a show sheet together for whoever we're going to start doing. If we're going to start with quarterback or whatever.
I'm fine with whoever.
Maybe we should not start with the quarterback so that we can do something less contentious.
Start with the running backs. It's probably a little bit contentious, or a little bit less contentious.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, I have like 40 to 50 reports already done for the year. So like if we choose something and I'm running out of time, like I can pull a guy out and talk about them at like a minute's notice and be okay with it.
Yeah,
so
like I said, I can work on. My mother-in-law and her family are coming in town this weekend, so I'm gonna have a whole lot of time of sitting around doing nothing. So I can work on an intro and have it done probably by Saturday. So
cool. That sounds good then.
All right, guys.
All right, you guys have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys.
Later.
Yeah.